This is Phillies Postgame Live, presented by Cure Auto Insurance, along with Ricky Batalico. I'm Michael Barkay and Ricky both take a look at the standings. Everybody look at the standings and think about this. Consider this. As the Mets are going down right now, 3-1 to the Atlanta Braves in the 6th inning, the Mets lose, and they come in here tomorrow, and the Phillies and Mets are tied for first place as a 3-game series commences at Citizens Bank Park.
How exciting is this?
Amazing.
I mean, you're talking about a virtual tie going into a series with the Mets. And I mean, we're going to see how that goes. I mean, this is almost one of those series that you don't want to miss. I mean, you're sitting on top of this. You're in first place. It's June. This is not like April. This is not a series that doesn't matter. This series does matter sitting in front of them.
Yep, haven't played them since April when the Mets swept the Phillies, and we'll get to that a little bit later on in the program, get you set up for the Mets series starting tomorrow. Before we get to Cristopher Sánchez, I want to talk to you about a guy who played your position, and that's the closer, Orion Kerkering, because we're going to get lost.
You keep calling him the closer, but I don't know what Rob's doing.
Well, we're going to find out shortly because the guy just got his second save in 3 days.
And I got to tell you, he looks the part. And sometimes people will say, well, what does that mean? He doesn't look like he gets nervous going out there in the 9th inning. I understand it's against the Marlins, and that doesn't scare anybody, and that their hitters are just a bunch of hackers. Yeah, we get all that. A lot of guys fold in this kind of situation. A lot of guys will start to sweat and get nervous when they get out there. And
Edwards
gave him a bit of a fight, and that pretty much took him out of having himself a complete game. But those numbers that you see, I want you to look at the pitches and the strikes.
Yeah.
91 pitches, 70 strikes. That is awesome.
I want you to look at the number on the lower right, 1.93 ERA in 4 starts this month, 1.93 and a 2.87 this season. It's down from 3.05, and he's got to be one of the more devastating pitchers in baseball right now.
Think about this. I believe the Phillies came in with a 2.52 ERA, the starters in their last, I believe it was 8 games. These starters are kicking butt. They're not. They're just going out there and pitching. And I said this from the beginning of the year, and I got crushed on Twitter for this. I think the Phillies have the best starting rotation in baseball. One way or the other, I believe it even stronger right now.
Okay, do you believe this, that if they fail to do something at the trade deadline because of the strength of their rotation, they might just be okay for the second half of this season?
I'll tell you right now, something's happening at the deadline. They're not gonna go to bed on this one. I think it's going to be one of those things where Dave Dombrowski knows he's got to make a move or two, and hopefully bullpen arm definitely has to be one of them. And maybe that's why Rob hasn't really anointed himself a closer, because if they go out and get a closer, then what happens there? I mean, it could be just as easy as that. But for the time being, I would have Orion Kerkering close.
Yeah, he has been special. His ERA is under now 0.50 this season in his last 21 appearances, which is amazing.
Pretty good.
Clayton McCullough may be going to the statistic that you and I were talking about while we were watching the game. You get Cabrera the third time around, all of a sudden his batting average against is 357 and his on-base percentage is 500 plus.
I think that's wonderful that you did your research. I really do. I think it's very
all right
cute.
here. I got
very cute that you went into your research pack.
Maybe Clayton McCullough did his research too.
Well, he may have. But what was I seeing with the eye test in that inning? I saw a weak jam shot by Alec Boehm turn into a base hit. Then I saw a strikeout that he looked pretty good on, still throwing 98 miles an hour in the same inning.
Yeah.
I am not taking that dude out of the game.
Managers fail to look at the eye test
Chicken
now
is what
versus
it's called.
the numbers.
So, okay, let me put it this way. You saw both pitchers. You saw Cabrera out there. You saw Gibson. McCullough has been watching these guys all season. Who are you leaving in?
I'm staying with Cabrera.
You're darn right you are.
Clayton McCullough. You know what? Maybe I'll go down and manage.
That's good. It's good for the Phillies. It helped out the Phillies. It was a great move on his part.
Sure was. All right, we take another timeout, or we'll take our first timeout. Either one.
It's our third.
When we come back, it's our third timeout.
When he does, they come in bunches like apples, in big bunches.
Yeah, they sure do. And
big bunches.
Big bunches. And he is 4th in the majors in total home runs. Cal Raleigh, Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, and then Kyle Schwarber with his 23. And if he gets as hot as he has in past seasons in June,
he'll catch.
Yeah, he'll catch
those
and
guys.
pass.
Cal Raleigh, see you later. Here comes the Schwarberian.
Yeah, when you look at this team and the way they are hitting right now, and the batting average, Turner's at 300. We talked about Castellanos last night, 277. Bohm's at 291. Yeah. They got some guys that are hitting more consistently.
It's very interesting because they had that week without Bryce Harper, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, we're not the same team without Bryce Harper. We heard that from two of the big guns on this team. And then all of a sudden, guys started kind of clicking and have kind of caught fire a little bit. Now all of a sudden we haven't heard a word about that, have we?
No.
You know what? Doesn't it get interesting? I mean, they're not lighting the world on fire. They scored 2 runs tonight. But guess what? Sometimes 2 runs is enough to win a ball game. They did enough in this game to win.
All right. Unfortunately for him, so did Edward Cabrera of the Miami Marlins, but he was removed from the game at a point that really helped the Phillies.
But then you think about their numbers before the game. Remember I said all their numbers aren't very good against this guy? Mm-hmm. They probably wanted to get on him early in the counts, because when you're struggling against a certain pitcher, what do you want to do? You want to, the first thing you see that's hittable, you're going to go and chase. And that's what I felt like they did early on in this ball game. But then Cabrera almost settled in and started putting them away with the curveball and the slider, and it got ugly a little bit.
So now 5-2 are the Phillies so far this season against the Miami Marlins. In fact, it's the 6th time in the modern era that the Phils have won 45 or more games in their first 75 games, Ricky Bo, which is pretty special.
They're playing pretty good baseball. I mean, obviously they've had some ups and downs this season, but the one thing they've been is always on top of their game. They're always trying to win the games. They're always fighting to the end of the games. I think that's the most important thing about this team. I mean, they could be down a couple runs. Do you ever feel like they're out of games? I bet you there's a handful of games this year we might have gone like, oh, they're down a couple runs. It doesn't feel like they can come back in this one. But most of the time, they really have those hitters that don't quit. They don't give away at bats. And I think that's very helpful, especially in the long run. If we're feeling that way, the fan base is feeling that way watching this.
Yeah, how much long, when Harper comes back, which we hope will be before too long, likely will sit out the Mets series, and who knows, maybe come back during the Houston series as the Phillies travel. But when you look at the balance of power on the Phils right now between starting pitching, relief pitching, and hitting, you know, it's all about the starting pitching. How long do you think before the hitting rises up?
Right, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't feel like I feel like the hitting has been kind of, I wouldn't say stale, because there are guys that are ripping it up right now. There are guys that are having really good at-bats, and I would go to Bohm. I would go to Turner. They're having great at-bats. Schwarber was slumping a little bit until he homered tonight. And then you have scatterings. And what I mean by scatterings, you'll have one good game here, one good game there, and one good game here, and here, but it's all over the place. And what you need to do is find a little bit more consistency throughout the lineup. There will be those games where they get the 12, 15 hits and everybody's happy. And then there's going to be those games like tonight. You have 6 hits. It wasn't like the Phillies really tore the cover off the baseball, but you do enough to win baseball games. Why? Because your bullpen was good and Ryan Kirkring, and you look at your starting pitching has been ridiculously good right now.
Sure has. This is for Cristopher Sánchez tonight, pretty special. And we talked about it in the pregame program, Ricky Bo, but I'll ask you again. He was an all-star last season. Might he be an all-star this season?
He's starting to trend that way, isn't he, right now? I mean, so now you're talking about 3 possibilities out of the Phillies starting rotation. You know, you look at Sanchez, I don't know if he's got that huge name, but if you ask me, I mean, he's one of the most consistent pitchers in baseball. Always gives you the same thing. You never see him kind of fall off of his game plan. He usually tries to use his game plan to a T, and if he doesn't, you know what? So, bad things happen, but it's only 3 runs he'll give up in 6 innings. And you say to yourself, that's not that bad for the way he was pitching on that night. That's pretty impressive. I mean, when you think about it, guys are sometimes really, really good, and then you have these guys on this consistent level that never really get really bad games, and they never have these fantastic games where it's always lights out. But this guy is one of those guys who I think just goes under the radar, period.
I think what's really impressive,
I think that's the point I'm getting to. He goes under the radar.
And you made it beautifully, that 15 starts, I was being kind, 15 starts in, Ricky Bo. 15 starts in, this guy only once has allowed 4 runs. Otherwise, it's 3 or less the whole way.
That's my whole point, is that even his bad game, which may be 3 runs or 4 runs, they are few and far between, and it's usually like 6 innings, 3 runs.
Yeah.
You get 6 innings, 4 runs. You know how many teams would take that every time out?
Yeah, and they've got that up and down their rotation. All right, let's hear from Rob Thomson on a nice win tonight.
Sanchez, that's his second straight game with 0 walks. What can you say about the command that he's
He was just phenomenal tonight. He really was. Strike percentage was over 70%. The first pitch strikes, unbelievable. Changeup was really good. He only threw a handful of sliders because he didn't really have to. You know, this changeup was so good. So many right-hand hitters in the lineup. So I thought he was dominant. I really did.
Is it a hard decision not to let him go out and try for the complete game?
Yeah, and I talked to him, and I think he was ready to come out. Okay. I think he was a little bit gassed, but if I'd asked him to go out, he would have.
But with how long he did go, like how important is that considering to keep the bullpen fresh, considering the series that you have?
Yeah, no doubt. You know, that's 3 out of 4 for Kirk, but we had to win the ball game. So.
Bryson had another good game. Do you feel like he's kind of starting to turn
Yeah.
the corner?
Him and Marsh are having great at bats. They really are. I mean, I left Marshy in on the lefty, who's sort of a somewhat neutral, but he almost hit the ball at the ballpark. So both those guys are having great at bats.
Were you surprised that they took Cabrera out after the game 2 pitch?
Well, you know, Clayton knows his players better than I do, so I don't ever comment on that type of stuff. But yeah.
What made him such a tough matchup?
Oh, he's a tough. If he's throwing strikes, that kid's got really good stuff. He really does. He's a tough at bat.
I know we've kind of talked about what Kyle's going through at the plate. It was nice to see him connect there.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Why? Obviously. Yeah, he's kind of been in between a little bit lately, but that was a huge home run.
I think overall this series, it seems like there's been a lot of extra outs on the bases.
Yeah.
How big of a priority is that to clean that up?
Well, you know, as I said the other night, there were a couple of things that were a little bit different with the pitcher being out of the, you know, in the wrong spot, and the pop up with Marsh, and today I thought that was a good play, trying to, because if the pitcher hesitates on the 3-1 at all, Kemper scores. So, but those things happen sometimes.
You mentioned yesterday Bryson's defensive ability. How important are plays that he made, especially the diving stop?
Oh yeah, and then you know, Trey made a good play. Bohm made a really good play on Sanchez. I think it was Sanchez's first at bat. Kind of backed it up, and Bohm moved his feet properly, get to the top of the hop, and threw him out. So I thought we really played well defensively today.
I mean, Kirk Green had the first save a few days ago, the second save now. I mean, especially given everything he went through in April, just how impressive has this stretch been?
Really impressive. He's throwing strikes. He's attacking the hitters. He's not, you know, he's trusting his stuff, and that's what he needs to do because he's got good stuff.
And just overall, I mean, going back to face the Mets, how big of an opportunity is this series to maybe create some separation in the league?
Well, you know, every series is a big series. It's good to win another one, and for us in the last few years, it's been difficult to win series down here. So I really feel good about what we did here, and now we got to move on. We got to face a really good club, and you know, we got our fan base in front of us, and it'll be an exciting weekend.
So to hear Tom and John talk about it, Tom McCarthy and John Kruk, Trey Turner has taken seriously the fact that maybe he was slipping a little bit earlier in the season at the shortstop position, and he's tried to shore that up. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the errors aren't there because Major League Baseball doesn't call them. So what you literally have to do is use the eye test with this guy. And if you look at him, I made perfectly clear with that one ground ball that he fielded. He literally got down really low, looked it into his glove, and then threw the runner out at first base. And I think the plays like you just saw, the diving play, that's more instinctual. You just go and get it because the ball's hit. You got to go get it. It's plays that are right at him that he has a lot of problems with. And I think that's what we saw tonight when he had that ground ball, that he got down really low to get a good look at the ball and make sure he watched it into the glove. Yeah, you could tell he's getting better at it.
Good. That's what they need. Okay, back to Cristopher Sánchez in the clubhouse, gets his 6th win tonight in Miami.
Your second straight game with 0 walks. How do you think you've been able to command the ball so effectively?
Segundo juego consecutivo sin boleto. ¿Qué tú crees que te ha ayudado a mantener el juego así, con tanto control últimamente?
Atacando la zona de strike temprano y atacando el plan de juego que siempre tengo para el bateador.
Just attacking the zone early in the count and just executing the game plan that we have before every game.
And how much pride do you take in going so deep into games and helping save the bullpen?
¿Y qué tanto te gusta a ti? O sea, ¿qué tanto orgullo te da llegar tan lejos en los juegos y poder salvar un poco el bullpen de nosotros?
Esa siempre es mi meta, mantenerme el juego lo más que pueda y darle chance a mi equipo que pueda hacer el ajuste con el bateo.
That's always my goal, just to stay in the game as long as I can and, give a chance to my team, like to focus on executing on the offensive end and just make the right adjustments.
Obviously, last year you were an all-star. Do you feel like this year is a better year for you, and if so, why?
El año pasado fuiste un jugador de juego de estrella. ¿Tú crees que este año ha sido mejor para ti? Y si tú sientes que este año tú vas mejor, ¿por qué tú crees que es así?
No sé, tendría que chequear y comparar los números, pero no me fijo en eso. Y voy bien, saludable, que es lo primordial.
I really don't know. I have to stop a little and check the numbers, but I'm doing well. I'm feeling well too.
How are you feeling after 8? Do you think you could have gone out for the night?
¿Cómo te estás sintiendo después de 8 innings? ¿Tú crees que tú podías haber salido para el 9?
Bien, sí, claro, podía salir, pero él es el jefe y tú sabes, la respuesta que él me dé, eso yo lo pongo.
Yeah, I felt great. I think I could have gone out, but he's the boss, and I'll respect every call that he makes on the field.
To be able to go so deep in a game like this, especially when their pitcher is pitching the way he is, how big is that?
Sí, que tan importante irte tan lejos en el juego y sobre todo cuando el pitcher del otro equipo también está teniendo un tremendo trabajo en la lomita. ¿Qué tan grande es poder tú lograrlo, llegar tan lejos en el juego?
Yo te digo, hay que seguir compitiendo y creo que nosotros, el pitcher que te diga que no le gusta llegar lejos, te está hablando mentira. Todos los pitchers abridores le gustan tirar 7, 8 hasta el juego completo.
What can I tell you? We just got to keep competing, right? And if you ask any starter, they're going to say the same. Like the pitcher doesn't want to go long in the games, like he'll just lie to you, right? Every single starter wants to go 7, 8, or even a complete game every single time that they are on the mound.
I know the changeup's a real strength of yours. Obviously, it was again. What's it feel like when it's playing that well?
Sabemos que el cambio es una fortaleza tuya, pero sobre todo, ¿qué se siente cuando está funcionando tan bien?
Se siente increíble, me siento súper bien cuando mi mecánica está súper bien, el brazo, todo, mentalmente bien, eso es algo increíble para mí.
It feels incredible. I feel extremely well, great when my mechanics are so well. My arm, just everything, it's just an incredible feeling.